So then I'm curious, just recently, I mean, I think as soon as just a few weeks ago or a week and a half ago, the Shovel Knight Amiibo came into existence.
Yeah.
It was finally available at retail. I'm curious.
I'm still waiting for mine in the mail, by the way.
Uh-oh.
No, I ordered it from Amazon a while ago.
Yeah, not you, Sean.
Not you. You're good, Sean. I paid my real money for it.
I guess, and I'm sure you've had to tell this story before, but when did this conversation start? I mean, who approached who here first? Were you aware that it would even be a possibility? Like, tell that story.
Okay. Well, yeah, just to kind of recap the whole thing, anytime, like, as a developer for Nintendo games, sometimes Nintendo will come to you and say, "Hey, here's the new thing that we're working on, and we want you to make content for it." Like when I worked at WayForward, it's not like they came to us with the prototype Wii and said, "Hey, we want you guys to make a launch game for this," right? But that's what happens I'm sure at the big companies. They'll give you development hardware early, or they'll try to hook you up into their system, right? And so, as I'm sure, as all companies do. And so, yeah, that same thing, like it happened with the new 3DS we talked about, and the Amiibo stuff. Okay. And so they came in and they said, yeah, we're doing a Toys to Life thing. Or I think it had already been announced and everything. But they just came and talked to us and said, here's how Amiibo integration will work. Here's how many megabytes of RAM it has, and here's how the structure is, and you can read, it can read from every game, but you can only have one game stored on it at once. Like, those kind of like rules. And how does this seem like something that would be cool to you? And you can work on it if you want, and if you don't, then it's no big deal. It's more just like, hey, here's a warning of what's coming up in the future.
Got it.
And so, so that happened with Amiibo, and they said, we're going to be allowing third parties to make Amiibo also. And so at that point, we had already had, from the beginning, we wanted Shovel Knight to be like a way crazy merchandise product of the 80s, right? Like Shovel Knight bed sheets and Shovel Knight cereal and Shovel Knight fruit snacks. And so in that vein, we had we'd already hooked up with some merchandise and licensing people to make things like Shovel Knight shirts and plushes, like the one you guys have on your desk right now.
Yep.
So we already knew like kind of manufacturing and like toy people. And the thing with making an Amiibo was that Nintendo would give you the license, but you had to make everything yourself. And so unless you were a company that already had a lot of hookups with toy companies or wanted to get that pipeline going, then there was kind of no way to do it. So I think we were in like a pretty fortunate position where we're like, dang, if we play our cards right, then we could actually put this thing out and make it happen, because we have enough of a like pipeline to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
So then you had relationships with, I believe the company who made it was Just Toys International, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's right. Just Toys made it. And yeah, we had a deal signed with Just Toys, although we hadn't produced anything yet. But Just Toys, they do Minecraft and Angry Birds and all this stuff. And so we said, oh, okay, well, yeah, let's hook up with Just Toys. Maybe we'll make, like, I wanted the whole Order of No Quarter as little 3-inch figures, just like desk figures. Like, that would be super cool. That's like my ideal product. And then the Amiibo thing came along, and it was like, wow, this is like almost exactly what we wanted to do. Yeah. But even with a bigger kick in it, right? Because Nintendo's their ability to like market and promote things is crazy, and it would also be great because it's a game, or it's a toy that goes perfectly with the game, and it would be like this big holistic thing that could be really fun and something cool for Nintendo fans, since we were doing the Sony Kratos thing and the Microsoft Battletoads thing.
That's right.
So we're like, okay, yeah, this will be perfect. So that was like more than a year ago, I would say, when we started talking about all this stuff.
So were there many prototypes? Like, were there a lot of different sort of designs for the Amiibo? Like, how quickly or how fast were you able to hone in on this final pose, which you went with?
Yeah, looks so good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. It's just so satisfying to see those everywhere now after it being like such a long process to make it all happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the pose goes, I'm trying to think. We initially had a couple of poses that we just drew out, like maybe Shovel Knight digging into a pile of dirt, and the dirt pile would be on the base of the amiibo, or maybe it would be Shovel Knight jumping or something. But we wanted to avoid, like, I think a lot of the Smash poses, they didn't know they were going to have to make them into amiibo.
Totally.
Right? Like it just looks like it's just the Smash art, and they just put the 3D models there, and they used posts or whatever to kind of make it all happen.
Yeah, which means like half the characters are sitting on ice blocks, or like Link's got his pea stand, they all call it. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's very refreshing to see an amiibo that was designed as an amiibo from the ground up, rather than Shovel Knight jumping in the air with like 7 red or clear sticks underneath him holding him up.
And so that was one of the big things we said is we don't want to have a weird plastic piece sticking out of anywhere. And we looked at the Mario line that had just come out for Mario Party, and it was like, okay, everyone's just like in their like normal pose.
Yep.
Right? Like it's just like Mario with his hands on his hips.
Yep.
And
both
so
both
said,
feet on the ground.
yeah. Let's just do something very, very like archetypical of like what would just the regular old Shovel Knight be, because we're only going to get to make one amiibo, so let's just make sure that it's like the most solid. If you could have one Shovel Knight on your desk, it would be this one. So we went with a pose that was like neutral and just like presenting the character in a cool 3D way. I would say that was probably like there were 3 or 4 choices, and we honed in on that one pretty quickly.
Okay.
We already had a model of Shovel Knight in 2D of like a turnaround of what he looks like from all angles in this cartoon form, right? Which is very different than the sprite Shovel Knight, kind of like how we were talking about before. And so, we just went to town on it. We had to do things like come up with the Pantone index colors for all of the paint. Like it had to be all super official.
Yep.
And like the base had to be machined to very exact specifications to make sure that it was identical to the Smash Brothers bases.
Yep.
We had to come up with a new emblem to go on the bottom of the amiibo, because every line has their own emblem. And we had to figure out like their little NFC chips, or their little like stickers inside every amiibo that has all the data on it. And so we had to like get the stickers and hook them up with the toy people and just make it all kind of happen, set it all up.
I remember you told me something at PAX about his butt.
Shovel Knight's butt.
Yeah, like it hadn't really been seen from that angle before. I'm not making this up, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell him he's making it up.
And also, and the chest especially the chest on the plush, right? Because originally the front stuck out like way too far. And it looked like he was like getting a little bit too excited. So, we had to rein that in. And of course, we went through a bunch of revisions, and like the horns, it would be like, are the horns even? They're not even. They're not symmetrical. Move one horn in by a millimeter or whatever. And it was just very, very exacting. And of course, working with Nintendo, who is like a very exacting company also, they had very strict standards. And, if we were going to make an amiibo, we were going to have to really do it right. So they were with us like every step of the way, making sure that it was all kind of going according to plan.
Now, you kind of just threw it out there, and I'm not going to let this fly. I got to go back to this one. But Shovel Knight cereal and fruit snacks, how do we make that a thing? Is that a conversation you're having somewhere?
Okay, all right, yeah. So we have a licensing and merchandising guy that is like a member of our team and like gets all the deals, right? And so I said, I want Shovel Knight fruit snacks and cereal, and he said, well, food is like kind of more like a year 3 conversation.
Yeah.
And so now Shovel Knight is in its 3rd year. And
yes.
So it's like we're coming up on a million copies sold.
Wow. Congrats.
And so, in fact, I think that we've done, now that the game is shipped in stores, I think that we are over 1 million now. So I went back to him and I said, hey, fruit snacks and cereal.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I think maybe it's more like a year 5 conversation.
Oh, come on. That's